The Double Dragon and Kunio-kun Retro Brawler Bundle for PS4 and Nintendo Switch might be the most fascinating retro game collection of this console generation, featuring a whopping 18 games including the beloved City Ransom, the first 3 Double Dragon games, and 11 titles that have never before been released in English. What makes this collection so interesting? Were those 11 games worth translating? And most importantly, is this collection worth $40? Let's find out in today's review. First, I'd like to talk about what it is that makes this collection so fascinating to me, and that's that this game has one of the most deceptive names I've seen in at least the last few years, and the publisher's marketing has been equally shady. That publisher provided me with a pre-release review copy, by the way, and here I am insulting their branding within 30 seconds. See, despite headlining the title, Double Dragon only has 3 games in this collection, with the other 15 belonging to the Kunio-kun series. For those unaware, Kunio-kun is the official name for the series that houses games such as City Ransom. We'll dive more into that later. Now, on one hand, I get it. Double Dragon kind of has to headline when the West doesn't even know what Kunio-kun is. That's fine enough, I suppose. But of the 18 games in this self-proclaimed retro brawler bundle, at best, only half of them are brawler games. A few of them are kind of debatable, but the other 9+ games are, I'm not kidding, sports games. You're paying $40 for a collection of NES and Famicom sports games. But while you're scratching your head, let me make this even more fascinating. The sports games, in my opinion, are actually the highlight of this collection somehow. And to top all of this off, of the 11 games that Arc System Works has been touting in this collection as never before translated to English, 5 of them are just the Japanese versions of games that did come out in English. The Kunio-kun Dodgeball game? Yeah, that's just NES Super Dodgeball, which is also in this collection. City Ransom? Yeah, the Japanese version is here too for some reason. 4 of the Japanese games in this collection are duplicates of other games already in this collection, with the 5th being the Japanese Kunio-kun version of Nintendo World Cup. If not for the Nintendo in that game's title, that would probably be here too. So yeah, this game's name is pretty misleading, but in spite of that, in spite of me expecting a brawler collection as advertised, and in spite of me never playing the vast majority of these games before, somehow I still love this collection. I've got to give credit where it's due. From a presentation standpoint, this collection nails it. In addition to the customizable screen borders, screen sizing, scan lines, and save state options that you'd expect from this kind of retro collection, many of the games have what's called an upgraded mode that reduces game lag and screen flickering during the most taxing moments that slowed down the NES and Famicom back in the day. You can still go back to the original versions if you really want to, but the improvements are so clear that the only reason to go back is to see how bad it used to be. Some of these games even expanded the player count, now allowing for 4-player multiplayer either on the couch or online, and let me just say, playing Basketball Dunk Heroes with 4 players is gonna be a must the next time I've got 3 buddies all in one spot. Seriously, that game might just be worth the $40 by itself, but we'll touch on that a little bit later. Though I wasn't able to try out the online thanks to that whole early copy stuff, so long as it runs decently and without much lag, it'll probably stand out as the best online integration of classic games thus far. The collection features online room creation for playing with strangers, and its own separate sets of save state slots for online and offline play, so the host can save without worry if their friend has to leave for a little while, and they can pick right back up later without having to start over. Altogether, the packaging is top-notch, but of course, that won't matter if the games aren't up to par. Odds are you're at least familiar in passing with Double Dragon, so I'm gonna gloss over those games a bit just like the collection does. These games were some of the defining beat-em-ups of the NES era and beyond, and they're still fun today despite showing some age. Especially if you bring a buddy along for the ride, each Double Dragon game is a fun hour or 2 of chaotic punching, kicking, girlfriend-saving action. But like I said before, Kunio-kun is the real star of this collection. This series is threaded together by its titular main character, Kunio, a student at Neketsu High School who's good at fighting, sports, and just about everything really. Kunio-kun's beat-em-ups are in many ways cut from the same cloth as Double Dragon, all the way down to the similar moves that are used between both series. In fact, one of Kunio's games, Renegade, predated Double Dragon by about a year, if you couldn't tell by the, interesting visuals. If nothing else, the Japanese version looks a little bit better at least. For what it's worth, games like Renegade, and really this entire collection, might not look appetizing. I know I laughed when I looked at all of this blue for the first time. But many of the games in this collection feel very ahead of their time. The enemies in Renegade can grab you from behind and hold you steady while others punch you, but you can break free, throw them, combo them, and this was well before combos were even a thought in games like Street Fighter, and on a system with only 2 buttons. Playing Renegade in some way feels like a very, very old tie-in game to an old-school action movie. I mean, in the English version's case, it's very clearly ripped off from The Warriors. If only these games had pioneered the concept of wake-up attacks, because some of the enemies will never let up when you get knocked down, and it just kind of cheapens the experience. The sports games are equally surprising to me, because while my eyes glazed over when I first realized what this collection actually was, I think these games actually made me into a fan of the Kunio-kun games, even if some of them are absolute garbage to, actually play. For example, let's take Kunio-kun's Field Day game, a collection of subpar minigames. Nothing about this game is special, except for the fact that, like each game in the series, it's related to the others in some form. This Field Day is referenced by Kunio's teammates in the previous game in the Kunio-kun timeline. I can't believe I just used that phrase. And then it's referenced again later in a sequel game full of equally subpar minigames. In another example, Kunio's dodgeball team wins the World Championships, and then while they're preparing for that field day, the soccer team gets sick and a girl begs the dodgeball team to fill in for them. Wait, let's go back a second. Did she just imply that she would f*** the entire dodgeball team if they win the soccer tournament? Like, if that's meant to imply a kiss, they would just say that, right? This is one of the newly translated games too. They had to know what they were doing here, holy crap. Anyway, because Kunio proves that he's amazing at soccer, he then wins the actual World Cup in a different soccer game, he saves the hockey team by winning their championship, he becomes the champion of the most badass basketball tournament I've ever seen, and he gets invited to Smash Bros. The fact that all of these games are related as if they were episodes of a cheesy high school TV show is just amazing to me. They usually even have some of the most involved, dialogue-heavy intro scenes that you would ever find on the NES. That these games exist is much more interesting than actually playing them in much of the Kunio-kun franchise, but the games that are good God, they're amazing! River City Ransom takes that classic beat-em-up gameplay and throws it into an interconnected world where you can go wherever you please. You can beat up enemies and earn money to buy upgrades in the city's like 6 malls, you can explore each street of the town, however you tackle the game is up to you, and it's so ahead of its time because of this. And if you love River City Ransom, this collection is home to a spiritual sequel where you travel through the entirety of historical Edo period Japan. The first of the 2 soccer games might run a bit better, but the second blows it out of the park with features such as live weather effects, wind gust, and much more. These developers absolutely pushed the system to its limits back in the day, and it's a marvel to experience them now, especially with that upgrade mode to cover up all the lag they used to have. Hell, some of these games even have a live music track selector instead of just giving you the same song for each level. Almost all of these games are feature-rich, with the team sports games featuring a surprisingly involved set of AI teammates. In the 2 soccer games, you only control your main character, but you can ask for teammates to pass, shoot, block, and more, and depending on whether you set your team to listen to you 100% of the time or play for themselves, they'll sometimes ignore you and do what they think is best instead. You can set your teammates to be aggressive or defensive, you can change formations on the fly, there's gear that you can get in some of the games that upgrades your stats. Really, most of the games in this collection feature the same surprising level of depth that River City Ransom does, along with sharing its humor and writing. And this brings me to Basketball Dunk Heroes, the runaway star of this collection. This game of 2-on-2 basketball features all the best parts of later games like NBA Jam, but with the added bonus of essentially being a fighting game. Every character has his own set of attacks when you don't have the ball, there are weapons lying around for you to use, it's just downright chaos most of the time. I almost had to walk away when the Florida team of nerdy NASA scientists could shoot lasers and teleport to steal the ball mid-shot. And even more insane is this game's scoring system. You thought one basketball hoop per side was enough? Nah, get out of here. We've got 3 hoops vertically stacked. The uppermost hoop is worth 4 points if you score in it, and the bottom 2 are worth 3, so with a really good shot, you can get 10 points. And if one team slams the backboard or dunks too hard, the rim could fly right off, which means their opponent can then steal and shoot that rim onto their basket and now score 13 or more points. I promise you that I cannot downplay how ridiculous this game is. It's absolutely amazing. When my friend and I were playing together just to get some co-op footage of each game, we no joke spent a full hour just going through this game alone, and we were laughing the entire time. Arc System Works might have created the sleeper party hit of 2020 with this game alone. Dunk Heroes by itself could arguably justify the price tag. But then when you get another 13 games on top of that, and 4 duplicates of some of those games, there's an insane amount of value here, even if I've still got an issue with how shadily the collection is branded. I certainly didn't expect to go into this Brawler Bundle and have a blast playing dodgeball, soccer, hockey, and basketball of all things, but thanks to the over-the-top abilities and the awesome AI, I somehow did. Altogether, I think you'd probably end up playing the sports games for longer overall than the brawlers because the latter games usually top out at 2 hours or so. So with all of this in mind, should you buy Double Dragon and Kunio-kun? Well, if all of this sounds okay to you, then I can safely recommend you pick up this collection so long as you know what you're getting yourself into. If you want brawlers alone, the bundle contains a good number of brawlers, and most of them still hold up incredibly well today. But if you only want brawlers, there are going to be a good number of games you play once and then never again. Considering there are collections like the Capcom Beat 'em Up bundle that give you a bunch of brawlers for half the price, it's a tougher sell for those looking for just those games. Personally, I'm glad I played this collection because I think it's a fascinating look back at the past. I never would have expected that many of these Kunio-kun games even existed, let alone that they were all intertwined in a shared universe back in the late 80s. But all of these games simply aren't going to appeal to many people, especially if you just wanted beat-em-up action. In that case, I would wait a few months for a sale. With all of that said, thank you very much for watching. This is my first traditional review in a good while. Usually I release more analytical videos, but I was excited to play some beat-em-ups, so I made an exception this time. Clearly I didn't know what I was in for thanks to that misleading title. But I had fun regardless, and if you had fun, you should make sure to subscribe for more or consider checking out one of my other videos. For example, did you know that there was an official game named Tetris 2? Actually, there were a few different Tetris 2s, and I documented some of the strangest sequels in the Tetris franchise in this video here. It's a fun watch, so make sure to check it out. And with all that said, until next time, stay golden. This video was made possible in part thanks to the generous support of these Patreon backers. If you'd like to see your name on this list, you can do so by supporting the channel at patreon.com/thegoldenbolt. Thank you.